First on my list in random order is Crystron, recently risen to one of the best decks in the game. It's resistant to bestials, it has a lot of hand traps, and it sets up a great board. It recently got slightly hit with the golem going to 1, but that's nothing really. And thanks to cards like Tristaros, Crystron also has the ability to play through so much disruptions. End boards has great disruptions consisting of Omni negates, spell of trap negates, and destroying cards every turn with cluster. And every single turn, Crystron has amazing follow-up grave from grave, since cards like Sulfanir and Sulfador can activate from grave. Next we have Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, also recently got hit. It lost Snake Eyes Oak, which makes the deck more vulnerable to hand traps, but still one of the best decks in the game. This deck plays through a lot of hand traps, it sets up amazing boards, and it plays over 15 hand traps itself, and combined with the amount of gas this deck has, makes going second very strong as well. Millennium gives great consistency, and easier ability to push for OTK, which also makes this deck very versatile in how it approaches plays and baits hand traps. With the recent unlimit of branded cards, this deck has risen in power and popularity, the only 60 card deck on this list, and also one of the most consistent somehow. This deck is also amazing going first and second. The boards and disruptions it sets going first range from non-target banishing to monster negates to fusing with opponents' monsters. And going second, it has cards like Super Poly and Fallen of Albaz to fuse with monsters, and Mirror Jade to wipe their field if they deal with it. And probably the most broken card in this deck, Branded Loss, allows you to make plays without your opponent being able to respond, while also protecting the activation of cards like your Branded Fusion. Blue Eyes has dropped a bit in power this format, but still one of the best regardless. One of the best things about this deck is how it performs under Max C and Furlos, since cards like Wishes can search 2 disruptions and Barrel gets you Drill Beam without even special summoning once. Other than that, the grind game with this deck is amazing thanks to Barrel and True Light, which recycle 4 cards each turn between each other. And combined with the amazing turn 1 board which this deck can set, makes Blue Eyes still one of the best decks in the game. Arguably the best deck last format, Fiendsmith Control. It has dropped a little bit this format because of Crystron, which doesn't play light or dark monsters. But regardless, it's still one of the best because it does technically counter Fiendsmith. Basically this deck is Fiendsmith, hand traps, and vibes. It's not unusual to have 4 hand traps in your opening hand due to the sheer amount of hand traps that this deck plays. So if you hate negate boards, this is the deck for you. And finally, we have Memento. It also could have been Mermail Atlantean here, but I went for Memento. It's so good under hand traps thanks to cards that dodge targeting like Memento Fusion, Bone Party, and Goblin Biker Grand Breakout. Also, if you like playing during your opponent's turn, this is the deck for you. Thanks to Sleepy, you can fuse both during your turn and your opponent's turn to set up all kinds of disruptions. From destroying cards to stealing monsters, as well as Appaloosa monster negates. So definitely one of the best decks for this format. Make sure to subscribe if this video helped, join my Discord to chat with a like-minded community, and maybe consider becoming a channel member. Shout out to these amazing people for the great support. Click the link in description to become a member.